there. I do not know what happened, but my internet provider decided to bounce me up and down a little bit. And yeah, if you were logging in earlier to the live stream, you had me for a little bit, dropped out for a little bit, had me for a little bit, and then it dropped out altogether. So I've gone downstairs and bounced everything. So hopefully we're all over it now. And, never, if at first things aren't working out, you just get up and go again. So that's what we're going to do. That's the old Aussie way. So couldn't think of a better way. So rather than going back and forth, I'll just restart the whole thing and do as we normally do. So first up, there's my co-star. He's coming up to say hello. I love it. Comes up to say hello, sit at my feet, and then he'll rock back to his couch. Once he knows I'm not going to talk to you. So other part is we'll give you a big look at the bay. Pretty wet. You'll see down here how windy it is with the trees. It's nuts. The surf's going pretty strong there, which is unusual. It's usually pretty silent this time of year. That's the weather. Blue skies. There was a bit of cloud there before, but a lot cooler than yesterday. The cool change, thank God, came through overnight, because yesterday was a stinker. It was really hot. Wednesday was 40 degrees, but it was bearable if you went outside. Yesterday, as soon as you hit the front door, the heat just hit you. And this one here down at my feet, we woke up in the morning, opened the door, put his head out, came straight back in. He wasn't going out. He knows the cool spots in the house, and he just sat there all day pretty much. His bladder had to be bursting by the end of the day, which was when the cool change came through. You couldn't have had a happier dog. For the next few hours, he relieved himself for about an hour, I reckon. Anyway, so we'll do the Bible read again. We'll just treat it like it's a brand new live stream, and hopefully we don't get bounced again. We'll see how we go. The rich man and Lazarus, Luke 16:19 through 31. At a time when many thought of wealth as a sign of God's approval, Jesus drives the point home that human riches are of no help to anyone in heaven. There was once a rich man who dressed in the most expensive clothes and lived in great luxury every day. There was also a poor man named Lazarus, covered with sores, who used to be brought to the rich man's door, hoping to eat the bits of food that fell from the rich man's table. Even the dogs would come and lick his sores. The poor man died and was carried by the angels to sit beside Abraham at the feast in heaven. The rich man died and was buried, and in Hades, where he was in great pain, he looked up and saw Abraham far away, with Lazarus at his side. So he called out, "Father Abraham, take pity on me and send Lazarus to dip his finger in some water and cool my tongue, because I am in great pain in this fire." But Abraham said, "Remember, my son, that in your lifetime you were given all the good things, while Lazarus got all the bad things. But now he is enjoying himself here, while you are in pain. Besides all that, there is a deep pit lying between us, so that those who want to cross over from here to you cannot do so, nor can anyone cross over to us from where you are." The rich man said, "Then I beg you, Father Abraham, send Lazarus to my father's house, where I have 5 brothers. Let him go and warn them, so that they at least will not come to this place of pain." Abraham said, "Your brothers have Moses and the prophets to warn them. Your brothers should listen to what they say." The rich man answered, "That is not enough, Father Abraham. But if someone were to rise from death and go to them, then they would turn from their sins." But Abraham said, "If they will not listen to Moses and the prophets, they will not be convinced, even if someone were to rise from death." It's a bit of a contradictory passage, that one. Because didn't Jesus Christ rise from his deaths and turn people away from their sins? The old Bible, you can get in these magnificent arguments about the Bible and quote different passages to justify your position. And there's plenty of passages to just about to justify everything. That's why you've actually really got to make the effort to sit down and read the Bible and understand the faith and all that sort of thing. And then you can make a decision for yourself. As it says in there, the one thing that comes out of that, doesn't matter how rich or powerful or whatever you've got it down here, means nothing in the next life. If you want to save your soul, it's the way you treat others and the way you observe God's commandments. And hopefully that's enough to get you through on the other side. Because it says it. One thing it says over and again in the Bible, we're not all getting there. So anyone who doesn't make it up that way, you're going down that way. I mean, that's just as old as history as itself. So there is plenty of warnings about that in the Bible. And as he said there's plenty of prophets and disciples and apostles and Jesus himself and God. They give you all the messages on what you need to do to have the best chance of getting through. So that rich man obviously didn't take much notice of that. So, and aren't there so many like him that we've got now? Now, I'm not a rich man, but I don't begrudge a rich man. And I don't believe, for example, that a rich man can't make it to heaven. I've known a lot of rich people who are some of the most generous, kind people I've ever met. So in my book, they would probably find a way to get it into heaven. Will they make it? There was one passage out of the Bible, I can't remember the passage, where it talks about why worry about building up your wealth in this life when you should be worrying about building up your wealth in the next life. And I think there's even a passage that talks about the house you build in this life compared to the house you build in the next one. So, there's a lot of validity to that. And there's also a lot of, one of the biggest things like, for example, in America right now, there's this big hoo-ha about that woman who got shot. Now, I as a conservative, I'm going to get to that in a minute. I can see both sides. I really can, which has got me in some arguments with other conservatives. We'll get to that. Like I said, I'll get to that in a minute. But you've got to be able to navigate, is probably the word, your way through a lot of this. And we all get so wound up about justice and injustice and all that. All that's going to get taken care of when we all pass on. When those who die from tragedy in this life go to the next life, they're going to be exalted. They're going to sit at that feast in heaven. They're going to sit at that table with Abraham, Jesus. That's something I really believe in. And there's going to be when the person who's taken advantage of all these things, been an absolute prick or fraud or whatever, they're going to meet God one day, and God's going to say, well, you didn't meet my rules. Away you go. And you had your chances. You were warned and warned and warned, and you ignored it. So we all get those warnings. And look, I fail all the time. But I try and get God's forgiveness and then move on and be a better person after it. Life, the problem is you don't think 24/7 about faith. You don't, unless you're some really special person, you don't think 24/7 about God. I think about God quite a lot, but I'm not 24/7. Once life impacts on me, it could be at work, it could be through sport, it could be through watching TV, it could be being on X, and you probably revert to, there's times I've sent a post out or a tweet out, and I'm going, oh my God, why have I sent that? That breaches a lot of what I believe in. But do I take it down? No, I don't actually in most instances, because that's who I am. And I've got to have a good, honest look at myself and say, in the future, Robert, you can't do that. There's no point taking the post down anyway. It's not like God's not going to realize you've made that post. So it is very hard for us humans to comprehend how magnificent, how immense heaven and God's justice is. It's going to come for all of us at the end of the day. Whether you're a rich person, a poor person, whether you're from third world, first world, whether you're center right on your politics or far left, whatever it is coming for everyone. See, I just think you've got to intertwine it with what you're doing. So, for example, I do my Bible read, then I do my rant, and it's I have got no doubt that Mum upstairs and Jesus himself will be going, I'll say some things and they'll be shaking their head. But then the next day, I'll preach his word in a way, by reading the thing out, the extract from the Bible. So I intertwine it in, and I do try. I do try. I don't always succeed. I certainly didn't yesterday in one aspect. But I know I'm a human. I'm not perfect. I'm not infallible. So, and neither is virtually anyone else out there. So one of the problems we've got in society now, we are so partisan. All right? You can't see fault in yourself. And this is like in politics. Some people are so rigid. They tie on so hard to a political party and ideology they can't let go. Even when that ideology or that side of politics gets it wrong. The most important thing is to recognize when you get things wrong so you can improve yourself. I say this to my junior basketballers all the time. Making a mistake is a good thing because you can learn from that mistake. What's a bad thing is when you make a mistake and you don't correct it and you keep making that same mistake. So that brings me to this woman who sadly got killed in America by the ICE officers. This is not a go at the ICE officers. And I put this in a tweet today and I've already been attacked for it. One, in Australia, we don't have any comprehension of what it's like to live in America. And I realize, and I've dealt with a lot of Americans. I realized that when I went out to dinner with a New Yorker, and he was from New Jersey. And I asked him about their gun culture. And he goes, Bob, you cannot afford. He carries a Glock around with him, and he's got a license to carry. And I said, most people in Australia couldn't comprehend that you actually carry around a Glock with you wherever you go. He goes, yeah. He goes, but when I'm driving on a freeway or in a back street or whatever, and he was from New York, he's now living in Chicago where the crime's pretty rife. And you can't drive around there. If you don't have a Glock, there's a very big chance you'll get carjacked. And he said, if I'm going to get carjacked, I'm going to be able to defend myself. We've got no idea. And don't forget, this goes back to the very start of American history. Every man and his dog carried a gun. Just look at the Westerns. I mean, they walk around with the gun straps around their waist and they have their gunfights at the OK Corral and all this sort of thing. They've been doing it for centuries. So Australians have really got no real... and before anyone comes at me, yes, I know some Australians own guns. Yes, I know our police officer have guns. I know our military have guns. But your normal everyday Joe probably doesn't own a gun, won't carry a gun. Like me, doesn't see the need for a gun. No, that's changed a bit in the last 5-10 years. But we don't have that thing that, carrying a gun around is a normal thing. And when you get into that instance like that officer did, you've got a split second to make a decision. And this was an officer that got dragged 100 metres in a similar incident with a car. In that instance, his decision was probably to leave the gun in its holster. And he paid the penalty for it. It was deja vu. It was about to happen again. This time he's going, no, bugger that, bang, bang, bang. Now, is that justified? No, from what I've seen, I don't think it was. And we've got to be honest with that. We can't be like the left who wash away everything. They justify every bit of hatred. Can we acknowledge that this officer made a mistake? Yes, we can. But at the same time, the woman who got shot made a mistake. She should not have been there. She should have complied with the legal enforcement officer, the ICE officers, when they asked her to get out of the car. She obviously was pursuing them. She had a wife there with the cameras out, and she was provoking them. And if you've seen all the other videos come out, these ICE officers, everywhere they go, because they've been cheered on by the left, the radical left, are pursuing them, are cutting them off. One good word that someone said today, because they get a car to get in front of them and then a car to get behind them, so they can't go anywhere. They can't make their arrest. But that's actually, if you're in a war-torn area, which I think America's heading to, that's a classic way to set up an ambush. You cut off the places of exit, and if there's people armed with guns, all of a sudden they start throwing it. You've got nowhere to go. You're a dead man. So you don't interfere with law enforcement officers who've got the ability to inflict deadly force. You just don't do it. And especially if you're a parent. So there's faults on both sides. Should she have been shot 3 times in the head? No. Everything I saw, and the close-up from the officer who had the phone out, she was steering to her right pretty hard. If she wanted to ram that officer, she just would have steered left and gone right at him. I think she panicked a bit when she saw the other officers coming, and she decided to bolt. Again, flight or fight. It's just an instant reaction that she had that cost her her life. Just like the officer, it was an instant reaction. It was a tragedy. It was a tragedy that could have been avoided. And it's been a tragedy that's been provoked from the radical left that are encouraging people to get in the way of these ICE enforcement officers from doing their job, their legal job, the job that their commander-in-chief, the president of the USA, has told them they have to do. And let's not get it wrong. These people, this woman gave up a life protecting people that have murdered, raped, and killed women, children, and men, that have poured drugs into America. I mean, why would you give up your life for that? And why would you get in the way? I mean, there's plenty of ways for you to protest. You don't need to get in the way of law enforcement officers. You just leave them alone to do their duties. Even if you see something that you think is wrong, get your camera out, as everyone does these days, film it and report it to the authorities, especially in America where they carry a gun. And whether they like to hear this or not, life in America is cheap. Don't believe that. Look at the statistics in their major cities. The amount of people that get murdered every day. It's insane. So it's something we can't comprehend here in Australia because we don't have the same situation. It's not that I'm saying we can't understand it, but to understand it, you've sort of got to lived it. And we haven't lived in those states and suburbs. And I feel really sad for a lot of my American friends because who knows what's going to happen over there. I mean, you've only got to have another person get killed. That's a tinderbox now. So very, very interesting. Very interesting. And a lot of people applauded JD's Vance. I think what JD Vance said yesterday was really good. But is it going to be something to settle down the rhetoric? I don't know. What I do know is this. If this starts going up like the BLM riots, Trump has got to really take a stand. He's got to bring that into line. He'll cop flack for the rest of his term. But he's got to bring in martial law. He's got to bring in all the National Guard, and he's got to stop it before it starts. I'm not too sure whether he's going to be able to do that, whether he's capable of doing that. So I think we're in for some pretty scary times. What's all the media? They're talking about this, but they're also talking about Greenland and NATO and Venezuela. I'm finding that all very interesting. We're in a really strange world. It could go, and the problem with it could go any number of ways. Do we want America fighting NATO? I don't think so. But is NATO even capable of fighting America? If you're in Europe now, ratchet it down, get across the table, talk to Trump and the Americans, bring Denmark into it, and geographically, it actually makes sense for Greenland to be part of North America. It's not part of Europe. I mean, there's 50,000 people there. Denmark hasn't done a lot for Greenland, so it's all nuts. Talking of nuts, Keir Starmer came out, and in the next few days, they could ban X. Why? Because they can't stand that people do a meme and put Keir Starmer in a bikini. They're saying women or whatever, but I'm pretty confident it's because he's been having the mickey taken out of him on X. For those younger ones who don't know what that means, he's getting they're just making an awful lot of fun of him with these memes on X. So I think he's taking offense because it's not like it's a recent thing that memes have been going about with all this stuff. And if that's the only issue, surely, I mean, in all the social media platforms and all the AI, you can do this when any AI. It doesn't have to be Grok. So it's all a bunch of rubbish. And good old Elbow, he has to lock us in with Keir Starmer. Now, unfortunately for the Liberals, Susan Lee comes out and agrees with Elbow. I mean, what are you doing? Satire has been part of Western culture, Australian culture, English culture from when it first started. For those who are old enough, do you remember on the ABC they used to have the puppets that mimicked John Howard, Bob Hawke, Gough Whitlam? I can't remember the name of the show, but it was hilarious. It was fun. Have a sense of humour. Because they don't have a sense of humour, these pricks, they want to ban it. Now, I think at that point, everyone who's on X in Australia who believes in freedom of speech, you've got to do everything that you can to stay on X if they go down that road. I really never thought they would go down that road, but you got to take them at their word. I think they've put enough in there with the youth social media ban. This Royal Commission, I think, is just got so many issues with it. And I think you're going to see social media bans, like I said this yesterday, digital ID and facial recognition, harsher gun laws, harsher speech laws. This is not about radical Islam. This is about shutting up the rest of ordinary Australians. And now Elbow's beating the war drums again. So thank God, Pauline Hanson and One Nation are polling in the 20s now. I hope they get to the 30s because we need actually an opposition. And Susan Ley, I mean, the Liberals, if they don't move soon, it might be already too late. If they don't move soon, and I've tried to give Susan Ley a fair go. I've even supported her through this Royal Commission stuff and said she's done a good job. But what she said about X today, that's got to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. The problem with the Liberals is there are people in the Liberal Party that would agree with her. There's people in the Liberal Party that would disagree with her. Well, maybe those who disagree got to do a Barnaby Joyce, jump ship and join One Nation. Turn One Nation into, ideally, my perfect thing would be Jacinta Price, Michaelia Cash, Andrew Hastie, every Conservative in the LNP ranks, jump ship, go over to One Nation. Let Andrew Hastie be the leader in the lower house and Prime Minister. Let Pauline Hanson be leader in the Senate. Or if Pauline wants to go down the lower house, great. But if you've got, I don't think Pauline can handle the PM's job. I love Pauline to death. I love what she's done, how she's fought for this country. I don't think she could handle the PM's job. I think Andrew Hastie could. And Pauline's getting on a bit, after not the next election, but the election after that, she's going to be 80. I actually think there should be a compulsory age where our politicians have to step away. And Pauline's getting close to that. She's done an unbelievable job. In fact, you could be saying if One Nation keeps climbing, she could be saving this country. But we've got to have someone in there that can do the PM's job. And so ideally, I would love to see Andrew Hastie and a bunch of others jump ship. Andrew Hastie become leader in the lower house, Barnaby Joyce the leader in the upper house, and give us a Conservative party that can actually govern this country from a Conservative position. I might be dreaming, but it's a dream worth having because I think it's the one feasible dream we've got that might change this country for the better. We'll see. Anyway, that's enough from me on a Saturday before I get bounced out again. God bless you. God bless your kids. God bless your grandkids. God bless. Oh, my God, look at that. He's fast asleep. That's so beautiful. He's just, I've got to be quiet. He's fast asleep. God bless your grandkids. God bless your pets. And God bless all those who are going through the bushfires. I'll say a prayer tonight for you, and I'll say a prayer tomorrow at church. Hopefully the damage is kept to a minimum. Though under this imbecilic, amateurish, incompetent ALP government, I don't think it is. And finally, God bless that country, and let's hope very soon we can get it back to what she once was. See everybody. I'll see you tomorrow.